going on, every people? Mad Poet here. We're just gonna do some composing and chatting today. I am getting things ready here. A little different than getting a show going. So let me get things in order, as it were. Get live space happening here. And see what kind of craziness we get happening today. That's looking good. A little of this, a little of that. Looks like, oh, I gotta get my Nono Live. I believe it's a Chinese platform. And that one, the stream key changes like every time I go live. So the stream key, if you're not familiar, is basically it's like a password for going live. And so you have a web address that you have to use for going live, and also a password. And it's a big long password. It's not like a password you can go in and change or something. It's created by the way. And so for some reason, Nono Live changes theirs. Like I said, I think every time I stream, I have to put in a new one. So let's get, and this is what I usually do when I have my start screen on for my shows, and a little start music going, and I'm getting things ready behind the scenes there. And also to connect to my chat on Facebook, I have to connect that each time, and that's awkward-ish. So it's not hard. None of this stuff is hard to do. Oh, I should mute that website. There we go. But at least I know that I'm going there. Oh, now Do It Pruitt. Got you in the background while I do my thing. Looks like Do It Pruitt and I are both streaming on Live Space right now. And I've been seeing more and more people streaming on Live Space, so that's actually really cool. I'm totally digging that. And I've been talking about it a lot. I'm very, very hopeful for the possibilities we see in the live space community and what that can end up doing for us. So, yeah, good stuff. Great to see you out there do it. Hope you are having a good stream. And, yeah, maybe I will stop in later if I get a chance. So just have to get all my numbers in place here and make sure everything is a thing. A little of this, little of that, as I like to say. Boom. And that's probably going to reconnect all my chats, and that's good. So we should have, let's get, for some reason, YouTube and DLive are still not connecting on my show. Oh, YouTube did connect this time. Okay. We'll see if DLive connects. That's great. So I've got, is VK gonna connect? It looks like DLive is still not wanting to connect. And okay. And I've also been noticing that sometimes my titles are not working correctly. So yeah. Do It Pruitt points out that we got like 4 people streaming right now on Live Space, which, back in the early stages, as Do It Pruitt has pointed out, he and I were basically the only beta streamers with any kind of regularity. Every so often you would find like someone else jumping on for a stream for a few minutes or something, but there were pretty much, it was Do It Pruitt and I streaming to the creators, the people who were the tech crew. And so, but that was great because we actually provided them with a lot of information to be able to work out how things were going there. And so yeah, it was all very good. I'm curious now on my Twitch channel. Let's see what's going on there. And I'm curious about that because normally I will have it, it'll say so I got the thing that says it was now live, but there's no other information with it, and usually there is. So let's just see what's happening. Okay, no, that all looks good. No complaints there. Excellent. And so, yeah, for if whoever happens to be tuning in, yeah, we're just going to be working on some composition today. And feel free to ask questions about this, that, or the other, or whatever. It's going to do our normal kind of geeking out on music theory as we so often do. I'm actually just going to take a look also, since I've actually got access to stuff. When I'm doing a full-on performance stream, it's a little tougher to actually look at anything that's going on just because it's like, I'm playing my guitar, I'm busy, it's stuff is going, and I can't really sit and fiddle with stuff. It's what part of it makes, okay, Nono Live is looking good, so that's great. And looks like I have reached level 22 on Nono Live. I don't really, on Nono and Nemo platforms, they have a levels system. I think I'm level 15 on Nemo. I don't really know what the levels mean. I'm guessing it relates to how, most of these streaming platforms are really set up for gaming. And so in gaming, of course, your levels are your gauge of progress, so to speak. I do play a video game a bit occasionally. I play a game called City of Heroes, and it's fun. I was playing for about an hour last night, and I've got like 10 different characters on there. It's a free game. I played it back in the early stages, back from when it was a paid version. Then it was like out of commission for like 6 or 7 years, and then there was apparently there was an underground stream, an underground server popped up. Someone had gotten the source code and created this kind of secret server, and I think there were only like a few hundred people on it, and then that ended up going public, and that spawned these other servers. So it's kind of cool because it used to be like this one entity. But now it is you got the different servers, and the game is actually progressed in different ways, on all of the different servers. They're all completely independent of one another. So if you play on my server, which is called Homecoming, it's going to be different than if you go on, I don't even remember what the other ones are called. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So I do that a little bit. I did actually stream exactly one time, me playing City of Heroes, and it was back when these had just first gone public, and I didn't realize at the time we weren't actually supposed to stream them. And I found that out afterwards. I'm like, okay, I won't do that anymore. It's okay to stream City of Heroes now, but I don't know, man, I would be willing to stream that again at some point, but it's not something I think to do often, because I probably play City of Heroes like once every 2 weeks or something. It's not much. I'm not much of a gamer. Anyway, let's take a look here. So this particular file that I'm working with is it's 4 complete albums that I'm just composing here and there. And this little window down here, it basically shows where the light gray areas are places where I have not composed anything, and the dark gray areas I have composed. If I blow this up, this is a song I'm working on now. A Lost Glimpse of All That Remains is my song title, which has no meaning at all, of course. That's kind of how I do my song titles. And I'm composing today because I feel like I have not been composing enough lately, and I need to be just more in the composition realm of things. So that's really all that's happening with that, is I just need to be composing more. I love composing. It's just freaking awesome. So let's zoom in here a bit. Let's kill that, bring this in here, get up to our new area. Let's actually get a little context here. I'm gonna come back here and just kind of play along a little bit and see how this feels. Let's see, what key? We're in B minor on this. It's kind of like to get a sense of what's, because I haven't been in this file for quite a long time, so I don't really know where I was at. So, one of the things that I tend to do, if we look through my file here, we'll see these markers, like this says intro. And then somewhere over here we should see, section A. And I'll have a variety of, intro. I have some breaks in there and stuff. The way that my nomenclature for these doesn't really mean anything. It's just a way for me of organizing things. And so there's no particular rhyme or reason necessarily to what might be a break or an A section or a B section. It doesn't mean anything. But I will have, I'll write an A section, and then when that A section is there again, I will just copy paste that. I may make modifications to it, to a second A section, and I'll usually notate that. I'll put a little asterisk next to the A if it's shorter or longer or different somehow. But I generally will create sections in lengths of 8 measures, 16 measures, 32 measures, 4 measures, but it's usually gonna, sometimes I'll use different numbers, 7 measures or 5 or whatever. But usually it's 4, 8, 16, 32 are pretty good places to be. So this one is a 32 measure section, which would encompass all that area that's in blue. And so a lot of times in something like this, so I've written these first 8 measures here for guitar and bass. And sometimes I'll just take that and just repeat it and fill up the entire A section. In this case, I feel like I want to do a 16 measure before I repeat. And so the way I often think about that is kind of like this would be like A1, and then I'll write A2, and then repeat both of those. Again, there's the way that I think about these ideas is fairly arbitrary. So there's nothing in this that's like, oh, this is how music works. Oh, we got the Obscure Mysticism Cults coming in on YouTube. Thanks for being here. And cheers to you as well. I hope that you are doing great. We're just kind of getting back into this. Let's see what I've got here. On this particular setup, like I said, I've got 4 albums in this one sheet music file. And so as you can see here, I've basically written out over 3 of those albums are ready to go. I still need to go in after those and orchestrate. I've orchestrated some of those, and the way I think about my own compositions, first thing I do is I outline it, and my outline is simply writing the drums. So I would write my entire drum track in sheet music first, and so after I have written that drum track, all I've got is tempos and song lengths. And I'll have an idea of kind of like how much energy might be involved there. Because, if it's a higher tempo, lower tempo, if it's a very busy drum beat or a very sparse drum beat. But I don't know what keys the songs are going to be in. I don't have song titles or anything at that point. Sometimes I do have song titles first. I shouldn't say that. But so in this case, I just laid out 4 entire, so what I've got, how many songs are in this? 10, 20, 30, 38 songs. Technically, it would be 38 pieces. Some of these songs may have vocals. There's a few songs in here that I think I want to sing on. Again, that depends on where my singing goes. I am feeling better about it all the time. probably do some more test recordings here in the near future. One of the things I really want to do is finish up my cover of Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. I did a kicking cover of that, and I basically just need to lay down my vocals for it. I may actually do one. I've been thinking about it as I've been practicing it. I may bring Sarah in if she's interested, and she probably will. She's a great singer, and have her do a little bit more backing vocals, which would be cool because then I'll have Gaetana doubling the vocals on the second verse, Vivian with backup vocals, and Sarah with backup vocals. And those three girls are all just awesome people. They're so cool. Anyway, so I outlined my album with drums, and so that's what I've got. And at that point, I'm putting in sections. So like the A section is, this certain drum pattern, basically. And then the B section, or the break one, or whatever, the intro, the outro. So the drums kind of determine that. And then I'll go through and do what I'm doing now, which is putting in guitars and bass. I used to exclusively write bass first. And I have backed way off on that because I find that I tend to write more robust music if I do bass and guitar together. But when I was doing just, I would do drums and then bass and then guitars. That worked really well. So I got my outline, then I put my guitars and bass in. What I think of as orchestrating is just all of the additional instruments I might put in: harpsichord, piano, strings, organ, synth choir, synths, any of that kind of stuff is kind of what I think of just orchestrating to it. And some albums will be very heavily on the orchestration side. Some will be very sparse on the orchestration side. And, some will... So it's real hit and miss. And I don't even necessarily have any criteria for whether or not a song should have a bit of backup to it. It's just like, what do I feel at this time for this thing? That's it. I'm just trying to reorganize a couple things up here for my chats. There we go. That looks better. Since YouTube is connected. And this, again, I'm not sure what goes on with the sheep chat. I've heard some people say that it can be a little bit hit and miss with certain websites. So like for my last several streams, both YouTube and DLive did not connect. This time DLive is not connecting, but YouTube did. And I'm like, I haven't done anything different. So I'm guessing that this is something in the programming. If it's something I'm doing, I have no way of determining what that would actually even be. So kind of stuck with that. But there we are. So yeah, but I do love composing. It is freaking awesome. And now I'm still just fiddling with stuff instead of composing, because I'm, like I said, always figuring out the system. We got to Herbs coming in on Kick. Hey, Herbs, thanks for coming in. And Herbs asks, what software is this? This software is Sibelius. It is a notation program. It's a very expensive notation program, and I do not suggest it for most people. It's very powerful. Some of the advantages to it, it's excellent for percussion. And, when I put in stuff like timpanis and chamber kicks, all the orchestral percussions, really good. The rock drum kit that I'm using here is freaking awesome. That's a big pro to it. Writing for guitars is a con. Putting in bends on guitar is just so awkward. And really weak for putting in, if you want to put in, like, when you're doing like a something like that doesn't go in well. I've kind of figured out my workarounds for it. The tablature, for example, there is no way for the tablature to coincide with what's up. So if I put in a chord over here, so I put these chords in, which I'm not going to keep, it won't show up on the tablature unless I copy paste it. Which, I mean, in some ways, there have been a few times where it's really cool that those are not linked together. But for the most part, I think they should have a way to link or unlink them. And like when I was I did a transcription of Heitor Villalobos' 1928 manuscript of the 12 Etudes, which is a very well-known classical guitar study. And there were some places in there where it was very beneficial to be able to make the tablature look a little different than the sheet music, and it made it give it a little better clarity. So I mean, yeah, it's an advantage and a disadvantage. The sheet music program I generally lead people to, I always lead my students to it, is MuseScore, which is free, and it's every bit as powerful as Finale, Sibelius, Dorico, all of the $400+ pieces of sheet music. So that's where I'd go. The con on MuseScore is that the drums are weak. Programming drums in MuseScore, I don't care for. The guitar transcriptions are much better. So, I mean, all of them are going to have their advantages and disadvantages. The main thing that I use this for is, and I can't really demonstrate this right now, but when I do my normal, so this is not my normal type of stream. My normal stream, I'm doing a performance, and I've got a bunch of stage lights back here that are not even turned on right now, so I can't show them to you. And so I have this big light show, fill the room with smoke. And I actually have 66 full-length rock albums that I have released. And I don't have those memorized. I've got about 18 of them are playable for show purposes. And with that, so I will run the backup music through my recording program, which I use a program called Reaper. It's very popular for hard rock, heavy metal stuff. And it's that's a brilliant program. It's hard to find cons for Reaper, in my opinion. So I'll run that, and then that I actually connect to Sibelius, and it sits and turns the pages for me. So as I get done with the page, boom, it just kicks over, and I set it so it'll move 4 measures in advance, and that is brilliant. And that actually enables me to do my shows. And Herb says, I've used Tabit for almost 2 decades, so if it's any better than that. And also use Reaper. Awesome. Reaper crew, welcome. So yeah, I have never used Tabit. I'm not familiar with that one. So I don't want to, of course, say whether, don't want to have an opinion on that, because I don't have an opinion on that. But, one of the big things too, and in this, I've been playing guitar for almost 40 years. I've been teaching professionally for probably about 15, 16 years now. And this, my guitar teachers have been saying this to me for decades, and it was not new. It was not their idea. But it's always more about what you use it, how you use it, rather than what you use. Pretty much dead at this point. Server's been down for years. I'm guessing that's a reference to the Tabit program, and. So yeah, but there are a lot of good programs out there. Some are free, some are paid, and there are various levels of expense. I did use Guitar Pro for several years, and Guitar Pro, I was on Guitar Pro 5 and 6, and then when Guitar Pro 7 came around, you already have a license, so you get the half off thing. I bought the I bought the half price license for Guitar Pro 7, and I'm like, this is just going the wrong direction. And at that point, I was already a Sibelius user. I basically upgraded because I do use Guitar Pro with my students a lot, because so many, most of my students are rock students. I have a lot of classical students and a few composition students, but mostly it's hard rock, heavy metal. is most of what my students are interested in. And And so, most of that stuff you find you don't find rock songs very often in Sibelius. I'm probably kind of an anomaly in the Sibelius community that I write heavy metal in Sibelius. I mean, I'm kind of an anomaly just that I write my albums, my songs in sheet music in the metal realm. And Herb says, Songster has been really cool, has a web interface, doesn't sound terrible for popular. And Songster is really good, and it's gotten a lot better over the years, too. That one, when I first looked at Songster quite a few years ago, I was like, oh, okay, this has potential. But I got to say, they have gotten really good over there, and it's not uncommon for me to send my students over to a Songster file, or they'll send me one. Hey, they'll send me a Songster page, be like, hey, can we work on this? Absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out there. And just out of curiosity, Herbs, I'm very new to the Kick platform. I'm actually streaming to 14 different websites: Twitch, Kick, YouTube, a couple different Facebook pages: DLive, Trovo, Nono, Nemo, Vaughn, Freak. I mean, I'm streaming out all over the place. What are your thoughts on Kick.com? Because I think this is probably only like my 4th or 5th time actually on Kick, and it seems very cool. I have followed a couple people on there. I've seen a couple of really awesome musicians, and I'm kind of digging it. So what are your thoughts? Because it's a fairly new platform, and I'm curious about how people are using it and responding to it and all of that kind of stuff. So I would love to hear opinions. Anyway, so this album that I'm working on right now, I don't even know what position it will fall in. I know that so my 67th album is in progress. That's going to be called Twice Upon a Time. And my 68th album will be the 4th installment in the Asemic Writings series. That's every 17th album, and so that'll be one song that's 52 minutes, 25 seconds long. My 69th album is going to be called Pink. And that one I've already, so those 3 I'm working on, and my 70th album I've already written almost all of the final song for. So basically my next 4 albums are kind of set out, and I know where those are going. But so then these 4 albums that I'm working on, I don't even know when they're going to be when they're going to be out, what order they'll be in or anything. Because I'm also working on 2 lighter albums called The Thief of Time and Tokyo Sunrise. Tokyo is Tokyo. It's a small town in Washington State, eastern Washington, that takes about 4 seconds to drive through. I've been there a few times. It's really not even a town. It used to be a town. It burned down in '98. So I've got like all these albums I'm working on. I don't know where these are going to fall. So this is just fun stuff to do. And Herb says that I am literally the first stream he clicked. Oh, that's very cool. I'm the first person you watched on Kick. Just made an account to check it out. Very cool. And first impressions at Twitch clone. Yeah, it is very much like Twitch. And from a streamer's perspective, if you know how to use Twitch, you pretty much know how to use Kick. There are very few differences. One thing that's actually kind of cool on Kick is that I was able to upload my own custom emotes already. Like on Twitch, you have to be, I think you get 5 when you become affiliated, and then you get like more when you become a partner. But I can upload something like 50 of my own custom emotes right away on Kick. So that's really quite cool. And I put up just all the letters necessary to spell the Mad Poet. So you could also spell any anagrams of those letters, which is fun. And that was just it's kind of cool that that's actually in place. So yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like a decent platform. Like I said, I've found a couple of very, very cool streamers on there. So I feel like a lot of people on Kick, at least the musicians that I've seen, are multi-streaming. So they're also going to Twitch, YouTube, or DLive, or other places, which I also think is fantastic. So yeah. So this particular song this album is called The Book of Lost Things. And the 4 albums I'm writing on this particular file are The Book of Lost Things, Pyrrhic Victory, When the Last Heart Breaks, and Abandoned Castles. And this particular song is called A Lost Glimpse of All That Remains. And when I'm composing, it's also kind of, it's a little different for me that most guitar players do compose on guitar. They'll hey, that's a cool little riff, and so then they'll tab that out or memorize it or record it or whatever so they can remember it. And I have a file just for ideas. I'll be sitting playing guitar and come up with an idea. I'm going to put that in my idea file, and I've got ideas for jazz songs and country songs and blues songs and metal songs and classical pieces and all kinds of stuff. And every once in a while, I'll jump in there and grab an idea and play with that. But for the most part here, there is a subreddit for music theory. And I'm not a big fan of Reddit, but I've been on there a few times. And in forums about music theory, we commonly hear the statement, we don't use music theory to write music, we use music theory to explain music. And I disagree with that. And what's going to end up happening here is I'm going to just be talking in numbers. And so what we get here, so I'm in B minor, and so the notes that we're using in key are B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And we will assign a number to each of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Many people out there, whether you're music theory geeks or not, are probably familiar with the concept of the octave. So that's the 8th note. And so that would be the B note again, or the 1 note again. And in music theory, we essentially measure everything as the distance between notes. And the way to count this in sheet music is every space and every line is one position in a scale. So here, if I fill in every one of these, from the blue note to the blue note, we have a total of 5 notes, even if the other notes aren't there. So this will be referred to as a fifth. This is commonly thought of as a power chord in music. It's a power chord because it's neither major nor minor. Basically, the part of the chord that makes it major or minor, which would be the 3rd note right there, we take that out. So it's kind of like a neutered chord. And so here I have an interval of a 3 or a 3rd. So here I'm playing a G major chord, and so this is a dyad. Then I'm coming down to an F sharp power chord. Now I may or may not keep this. I'm just kind of illustrating how we're going about this. But this is what I kind of do when I'm doing this, is I come off of this particular, I'm going to do a different view here and make this a little more visible for us this way. So here I've just got this, I go from an A major chord to an F sharp minor to a G major. And so then I just ask myself, do I like, going to the F? Now here, going from the A to the F sharp to the G back to the F sharp, maybe not my best place to go here. And there's a few different ways we could look at, where might we go with something like this? And so we can say, how far do I want to move? So this would be actually movement down by a second. And these numbers don't necessarily have to make sense if you are not a music theory geek. Part of the reason I'm actually doing a composition stream today is last night I was doing a lesson with Susan, who's my longest student of all time. She's been with me for, I think, over 10 years now. And we were working on one of her compositions. She composes for choral music. And we were just sitting there talking in numbers, and it would sound like we were some kind of like spies talking in code or something if you didn't know what we were talking about. And it's fun. So, yeah, so I kind of think about, where do I want to go from this G chord? And I don't think I'm digging that there. But I kind of think, so here, now this chord would be a sixth. These are sixth apart. And in this case, it's a major sixth. And I don't tend to like major sixths as well as minor sixths. And so if we think of your six, in heavy metal all the time we do. So that would be a minor sixth to a perfect fifth. And that's a minor sixth is a great sound for metal. A major six, I kind of think of as like the Chuck Berry sound, kind of a. So that's a major six. And so here, so basically the sixth, I'm on an E chord now. So that would be my root note is the E. And so the six is major. And so the six of my E is going to be the second note of my scale, which is a C sharp. So in this case, I might take this to a C natural to give myself this sixth that's kind of more metal conducive. And the second note of the scale is one that I find myself very commonly modifying. And that would essentially take us from a B minor to more of a B Phrygian type of a feel. Phrygian is a mode, a minor mode in music. And so again, this may work, it may be absolute garbage. I don't know. That's actually not bad right there. As zoomed in as I am, this thing moves around a lot. That might actually work out all right. And I might take that and just do that minor sixth in the one position, and then bring it down to the power chord. I think I think I would need to leave this as an eighth note. And make this a quarter note. And then bring this up to a quarter here. And so now I've made this a fourth, which would, and then this is kind of a weird thing in music theory. I've lost a lot of students on this one and been like, okay, we're gonna have to revisit this later. It's a normal thing to be confused about. This actually ends up being basically an inverted fifth. So our ear is gonna hear this upper note more as being the root of this chord, and it's going to hear this as a fifth. If we invert this by flipping its position, it looks like a fifth. And that's how our ear is going to hear it. If we consider the E the root, then this is a fourth. And then there's things we can do to trick our ear on this as well. But this could be, this might work coming out of here. Yeah, that's not bad. And so in a case like this, what we could do here is we could give some other context to this chord to basically force the E to be the root. So we could say, okay, the D is the root. We could say that the A is the root, the upper note. I looked at that wrong. We could say this is an A power chord. Or we could say that if we want this A to be a 4, then we're going to need to give some other context to that for it to be a 4. So in this case, what I've done is I've put this note on the 3. So now we have a 1, a 3, and a 4. And the 1 and the 3 together are going to be more powerful than the 1 and the 4. So it's going to kind of push us, the 1 and the 3 are going to make it sound like an E. In this case, the 3 would be a G, so we would have an E minor chord with an added 4, or we would sometimes refer to that as an added 11. And the reason it would be an 11 or 4 is if we said, in the scale we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we would start over at 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could also do this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then 8 through 14 would each equate to 1 through 7. And this kind of musical language does make sense, but you basically have to move into a place where you start to understand it before it's going to make any kind of reasonable sense. And even on here, what could be good is just to kind of go 3, 1, 3, 1 like this, because this is also going to, now the 6 could invert to a major 3. So this could be reinterpreted as a C major rather than E with a minor 6. But again, if I put the 3 in here, it's going to be, a little more likely to kind of hit that way. So yeah, this could work really well. And then what I may want to do here is I might want to change this bass line on this G major chord. That's actually working for me. I'm digging that. I'm liking that quite a lot, actually. And I think right next here, we're going to put in a little hitch here. So to kind of get us moving to the next spot. Yeah. And again, I have to copy that stuff down to the tablature spot. Put a couple eighth notes in there on the bass. But I'm thinking that I might kind of bring us into this, kind of drop us down into it on the bass line here. Yeah, so here we're basically having the 1 of the chord and the 3 of the chord. I have doubled the 3 here, and then now I've put us on a 2, so we're kind of walking down in this case. And we don't have to only use chord tones. Obviously, music would be very boring if we only used chord tones on all of our instruments. And these little passes, like that would be a fairly dissonant chord. If we were just to play that all together, we would essentially end up listening to something like this, which is pretty dissonant. But just as a passing like that, when it passes, it works really well. And in this case, also we're separated by an octave, which can make a very significant difference. So if we were to take this 2, as it were, of the chord, move it down an octave, which would be out of the range of the guitar, but the dissonance hits a little different. If we were to move it up an octave, it would hit different again. And in that case, I actually really like it. And so that separation by octaves, or what we refer to as an octave equivalent, can be a very useful thing to play with. And understanding how your octave ranges work is also good. And so, for example, even like this 6 here, this minor 6 that I'm using, if this were in a higher frequency range, I'm more inclined to use those minor 6 for a longer period of time. When we get down to the low end on the guitar here, so this lowest note on a guitar in standard tuning is like 82.3 hertz, and that's getting you're in the bass range down there. You're very much in the bass range. That's the same frequency range as a kick drum. And technically, what we call a bass guitar is in the contrabass range, because that note an octave lower would be down, 42.1 or 42.2, whatever it is. It's a pretty low note, and that's a note that your home stereo system doesn't even recreate accurately. You're actually hearing overtones off of the bass when it's that low. It's one of the big very significant difficulties with using extended range guitars and basses is you're getting so far below what most sound, even very high-end home sound reproduction systems can reproduce. Like when you go into professional theaters and you go and you have like live sound systems, those can reproduce much lower frequencies. And even our ears can't, we can only go down to about 20 hertz. And below that, we can't even hear it. So, if you go too low, it literally doesn't do anything for anybody. And it's not just 20 hertz, it's how old are you? When you're 16, yeah, you can hear down to 20 hertz. I'm 52. I can't hear that low anymore. Your ears do degrade over time. And I've taken very good care of my ears because I'm a musician, but still, with age, things change. I have less hair than I used to. I have less hearing than I used to. And it's not just things that start with H. So yeah, so understanding frequency ranges and all that. So basically, when we get into these low frequency ranges, things actually lose clarity in certain ways. So if we have notes too close together in the lower frequency range, it's less likely to have clarity. So and that's easily demonstratable if I play this exact chord here on the guitar. And if I move that up an octave, much greater clarity there. Move that up an octave again, and we'd be slightly out of tune on that one. This guitar probably needs an intonation job as well. But yeah, so we get greater clarity in higher frequency ranges. And so like another thing I could do, if I really wanted clarity out of this, I could separate this by an octave. And then this chord would now be probably kind of funky to play, doing something like that. And again, greater clarity with that separation of octaves is not what I want in this song. And I'm not afraid to have that, a little bit of a muddy chord there. That's not going to hurt anything. So this is working for me. I want to point one thing out. If you are working on any project in the digital realm, save often. I have probably saved this like a dozen times already just while I'm sitting here talking. You should make that just part of your system, that you're just constantly hitting Control S. I actually have a hotkey on here. If I hit the number pad, if I just hit the 0 key, the biggest key on the number pad, that saves this file. And that's just, I just work that into my system. I learned my lesson up at Riverside Studios in the early 2000s when I was working on my very first album. And I was doing overnight stuff there because I could get in for free, and I was working like 4 hours on the song Mental Floss, and I didn't save a single time, not once. And then the power went out for like 3 or 4 seconds. What do? You start over, and then you learn how to save your freaking files. That's what you do. So, yeah. So, and also, I typically do compose faster than this if I'm not on stream, because I'm not actually, I don't monologue generally when I'm not on stream. But let's and also, another thing, like particularly when I was putting out an album a week, which I did for 11 months, which was really fun, and it was a very enjoyable time for me. I learned a lot. You can't really spend a lot of time second guessing what you are actually doing. So you just kind of got to put stuff in and go with it. And it's like here, I'm not in a hurry right now. This I can put these albums out whenever I want. I'm not on a weekly schedule right now. I have not imposed that on myself. So, so I'll spend a lot more time listening and be like, how does this sound in context? And I think this is working. This is working really well. That flat 9 C sharp down to a C, which is the 6th of the chord. Totally digging that. And this little tick at the end here, I'm kind of liking that. Put a power chord there, and this would be a gallop feel, a gallop rhythm. Very, very common, very popular in a lot of types of music. I was about to say in metal, but I mean, you hear this like strumming style in country music. The gallop is all over the place, and I'm not sure if that's what I want here. That is not what I want here, in fact. So I'm not going to do it. Excuse me. It's a new choking hobby I've been working on. I'm getting quite good at it. And I think what I might actually do here now is kind of punctuate this. And this, I use the word punctuate in this kind of thing, where I'm just going to kind of make the guitar a little more sparse. And basically have some pauses in here, and kind of let the bass do a little something. And here again, actually using this 6, this minor 6th here, might work out on that. Yeah. And I don't know how, I don't know what kind of system other people may be listening on or whatever. So I don't know if the bass is actually coming through in this case for you, because again, it is a fairly low frequency. If you're listening on standard computer speakers, those may not be picking up those very low ones. But speaker technology has come a very long way. So, and you might be listening in your recording studio or on some really great headphones. I don't know, but. So I'm kind of letting the bass shine here. And again, when I do this, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm basically working around an E here. And so I'm working around, so what do I want to do with E? So, here I've got the 3, the root, the 4, 3, back to the root. And I kind of want this bass to kind of speak to us a little bit. So I want it to move. I could, and sometimes I do just leave the bass just sitting there, just playing a single note, and that can work awesome. Not what I want here. And that I like better. And bringing this up here, this is intentional. I definitely want to get back off of the E. And here, the decision making about chord progressions. If you study music theory, you will hear all kinds of stuff about chord progressions. So in this case, our chord progression is A, F sharp, G, E. And technically it's A major, F sharp minor, G major, E minor. And within our actual scale, with our B being the tonic, and it's not uncommon to refer to the low note, not necessarily the main note of a chord, as a root, and the main note of a scale is the tonic. And these can be kind of loosey-goosey terms. So I know there are some people out there who are very pedantic about music terminology, but it's not always an important thing to be real strict about. But in this case, we basically have a 7, 5, 6, 4 would be the chord progression we're working here. And So I'm kind of wondering how it would feel. So the 4 to 1, which if we go back to the B now, we would be on the 1. That's, you know, the 5 of a scale very often leads back to the tonic. And we find that there is kind of this interesting correlation with the 5 and the 4, the 3 and the 6, the 2 and the 7, that they can very easily have similar functionalities, but they tend to do it in different ways. So for example, the 3 of a scale tells you whether or not that scale is major or minor. That is also true in a chord. The 6 of a scale, the kind of the anterior or corollary, if you will, to the 3, has a very strong implication of major versus minor. And we saw that earlier on the guitar with the very much a minor feel with that minor 6. If we do the more Chuck Berry, very much more of a major feel, so that you can get a very strong implication of that. Now, the 5 of a scale very commonly leads us back to the root, to the tonic, and with a very resolute feeling. And the 4 can be very similar. So if we have, for example, a 5-1 move, and I'm just doing this in major right now because it's a very good way to illustrate it. So I'm playing a B7 chord to an E major, 5-1 move. It sounds very resolute. If you do your 4 to 1, it still has a very good resolution, but it's a different feel to that resolution. And the reason for that is largely about which notes do these chords have in common. Because in this case, you're always going to have at least one note in common when you're moving from a 5 to 1 to a 4 to 1. And so, you know, I like to think of this as like, this is like a completion. Like you've finished your thing and you can let it go. Where that's a 5-1 move. Where to me a 4-1 move is more like a bringing in, like someone has been gone on a trip and they've come home, and you know you're bringing them in. That's that kind of a resolution. And of course, in heavy metal, I'm not necessarily using these the same way, but the concept is still similar. That a 5-1 in minor is still going to bring us to a resolution, and so is 4-1. So there are the same ideas in a minor scale. The resolutions are not typically as strong in minor, but they're definitely there. So if we bring this up to a B, let's just hear how this sounds. Yeah. And you know, and I'm kind of feeling this. Just sometimes you just let a chord ring. You know, and I have a tendency. You know, anyone out there who's seen my live shows, my live online shows, know I tend to go kind of on the complex side of things. I enjoy complexity. I like getting deep into things, and so sometimes I kind of really have to rein myself in and be like, okay, this is a good place not to be complex. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just do kind of 4 chords here. Don't even know what they're going to be yet. One thing I have found on this particular file is, because it is 4 full albums, you know, nearly 4 hours worth of music on this thing. It sometimes reacts kind of slow. So I think Go to a 2. No, that's a 3. 7. There, let's go to the 2. Now the 2 would normally be a diminished chord, and that's another one that I will typically kind of kill that diminished quality. And I think what I want to do with these is, again, I kind of had an unpunctuated, punctuated, unpunctuated, punctuated, kind of what I wanted to do for this beginning part here. And then I think what I may do here is drop these down. So I'm going to revoice 2 of these chords. So again, they're going to be a power chord, but they're going to look like a 4th. And I'm just curious about something now. Oh, okay. I see. Okay. I was looking, I had one of my screens kind of scrolled up, so and I could see my video on it, and it looked wrong on there, so I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. So here we have a D, A, C sharp, E. And let's see, let's take the root notes off of these, transfer them to the bass. Oops, that's not the root. That is. And again, I do think I want the bass to kind of poke through here a little bit. So I'm going to put this up to a 3. Take that down to a 5. I'm going to put that on the 6. And then we're going to fill in some other notes here. And so that was already on the 1. Let's go take that up to the 3. This is on the 3. I'm going to take that up to the 5. This is on the 6. Take that up to the 7. This is on the 5. Take that up to the root. Let's see how that feels. Should play in a second here. Not quite digging that bass line in that measure. And see, this is where, back when I was doing an album a week, I probably would have just left that bass line. Because there's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. But I feel like since I am sitting here tweaking, I might actually do a little better on it. So let's, I was liking those, but I think that these two both being the same, even though they're different chord tones, I don't like those matching up. So let's take that back to the root. That might be enough right there. No, so we're on the 5. Let's take that down to the 3 and bring that to the 5. And I think I'm actually going to take this down even lower. 5. Down to the 1. And then I'm going to bring this up to a D chord here. And I'm actually putting this on the 3 of the D chord. So that's an F sharp. So we'll have a D major there. Let's turn that into 8th notes as well. I'm going to take it to the 7 on that particular spot. E power chord here. So we're going from a D to an E. Let's get a little, let's put this into the tablature, save it. And let's listen for context here. And also, let's see, I've written, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures. So I got 2 more measures to write, and then we will just copy this to the second half of the A section. And then I think here I'm going to put in some 16th notes and just kind of rip. And I'm actually curious now, at the beginning of the A section, this thing is moving really slow right now. And the whole doing 4 albums in one file was just kind of an experiment just to see what happens. And I've had fun with it. But it does bog this program. And I've got a pretty strong computer. Okay, so I do start with a B note, with a B minor chord. And okay, so I'm just kind of deciding how I want to get back to the beginning of this, because this is going to be a repeat section. So basically after these next 2 measures, I'm going to be back to right here. We're going to be starting over. Highlight, highlight. Come on, little computer, you can do this. Maybe you can't. There we go. Right there is where things are going to start to repeat. Let's zoom this back in. And in it, on the repeat, we do have a bunch of 16th notes, so I don't necessarily want to go 16th note straight across to this. I think what I'm actually going to do here, and I'm going to move these around a bit, is right here, I'm going to give us a little pause, and I think I'm going to want this to be on the F sharp. Oops, I want this to be a power chord, not a 4th, or rather not the wrong power chord. So I'm going to put this on the F sharp because that is the movement by a 5th, leading us right back to the tonic. Got my coffee, got my water. Got lids on both so I don't spill water on my computer again, because that was a bad idea. Don't do that. I urge strongly against it. So basically I want to get this series of 16th notes to the F sharp so that we lead back to the B minor chord, the tonic of the key that we're in. And you don't necessarily have to lead anything by anything else. I mean, you can just as easily, I could have said, I want to make a movement by a 2nd. So I could have gone to the A chord there as the 7-1. I could have gone to the C sharp for a 2-1. I mean, it's important to think of music theory not as a set of rules, but as a set of guidelines. And that's, I've had a lot of people say to me, I don't want to learn music theory because it's going to change the way I write music, because you have to do these certain things. Well, you don't have to do any particular certain thing. And the people on the music theory forums are correct in saying that music theory is an analysis tool. I just don't necessarily agree with them when they say that we don't use it to write music, because you absolutely can. And that's why I'm speaking in numbers here. And some people would be like, what do all of these numbers mean? And if you're not, at least somewhat versed in music theory, then these numbers don't make a lot of sense. But the great thing about using the numbers for this type of thing is that this happens to be in B minor. But if I was just talking, letters here, then, I'm playing a B note, and then I'm playing a C sharp, and then I go back to a B, and then I go down to a G, and then to an F sharp and a C sharp. But if I work in a different key, all of those letters will be different, but I can still say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. And so it's really, in a lot of ways, it's a more convenient way to do it. And if you're going to, kind of steep yourself in composition, you really need to be able to do both. Is the way to approach it correctly. Is you do want to know what letter is this, and you also want to know what number is it, and understand how the modifications of those numbers can make a difference. So I can have a major third or a minor third, and in this case, that would be either a D sharp or a D. In the case of a B minor scale, we have a D, and that is a minor third. And so you can have, a D sharp, you can have a sharp third, flatted third, so all of these things, there's a type of universality-ish to the language. When I say universality, just referring to numbers versus letters. Now, something like this, one of the things I'm kind of big on here is, and this particular piece isn't terribly fast, but when you get into faster music, if you have a lot of 16th notes on a bass, a lot of times they kind of blend together. And there's certainly uses for that. But a lot of times I will have my bass kind of going at half speed. And we may modify that bass line a bit here. And I don't like that. I don't like anything about this at all. And so there's this great trick you can use in digital composition. When you've put something together that you don't like, you just freaking delete it and try over. And this I think this is something I've had to work with a lot of students on, and even people who aren't my students. Just, people while they are composing, it's very easy to become emotionally attached to what you have created. And if you can get yourself beyond that point, and this is true whether you are writing music, writing a book, writing a script, writing a poem, painting, drawing, whatever you're doing, sculpture, whatever it is, it's great to be able to say, I did not arrive at where I wanted to arrive at, so I'm going to do it over. Instead of saying, oh gosh, I created this, I have to justify it because I don't want to admit that I did something bad. And this, one of the ways this manifests, particularly when we're working with guitar players, is, there's this desire to write a killer riff. Is that a killer enough riff? And so people kind of get this paralysis, the creative paralysis. I don't like the word creative block, but we get in our heads about our own work, and we prevent ourselves from doing the work to arrive at where we wish to arrive at, which is a big problem. And so let's say you write a riff and it's garbage, right? Like I just did that. I wrote an absolute garbage riff. It was terrible. It didn't fit anything about what I was going for. That may have been a good riff in a different context, but it was not the right riff in this context. Didn't work the way I thought it was going to. So I deleted it. So let's say you're on your guitar, you want to write a killer riff. Now I got to write the next Iron Man, Smoke on the Water, Crazy Train level awesome riff, which, freaking good luck. Someone will write a riff and they'll be like, that's not good enough, and then they'll just kind of stop. And maybe they write 3 or 4 riffs and they're like, okay, I just can't write good riffs. Maybe they write 10 riffs and they can't write a good riff. Well, maybe if you sit and you write 50 riffs or 200 riffs, on your 201st one, maybe you'll write an absolutely killer riff. So why not go ahead and write the first 200 and throw them away so you can have, because if you don't write, because if it takes you 200 tries before you get there and you don't do the 200 crap riffs that no one else is ever going to hear, BTW, you don't ever have to play your crap riffs for people if you don't want to. On your 201st one, or your 508th one, or your 472nd one, or whatever, your 81st one, doesn't matter. You finally write your killer riff. Well, if you don't do all the stuff before that, you don't get to your killer riff. And so be willing to write absolute crap. And then just don't show anybody. They don't have to, or do. You know, be like myself or Buckethead. We will just write an album and put it out. Buckethead put out like over 300 albums. And some of them I don't care for. I have not listened to all of Buckethead's music. I have nothing but respect for his skills as a guitar player. I don't know very much about him as a person. I've heard, I think, one interview, and he seemed very cool in that interview. But the guy's got a great body of work, and undeniably, just an amazing guitar player, right? I don't like all of his music. I've listened to, I don't know how much, a bit, and some of it I'm like, this is freaking awesome. And some of them I'm like, you know what, this isn't doing anything for me. And I'll tell you what, that's also true of my music. I do listen to my own music. And, you know, like when I'm out on a run, I'll just put my music on random. And sometimes a song will come up and I'll be like, whatever. That's not doing anything for me. And sometimes one of my own songs will come on, I'm like, okay, this gets me going. Like my version of Three Blind Mice, I think is absolutely killer. I love what I did with that. Voices of the Soulless, off of my 55th album, Patron Saint of Murderers. Yeah, it makes me drop guitar picks apparently, but I've got more, so I'm good. So yeah, you know, and I'm guessing Buckethead had the same kind of attitude. It's like, you know, okay, yeah, I finished this album, I'm going to put it out. And even some of the songs that I don't care for, there have been people have given me compliments on, you know, on YouTube comments or on my shows or whatever. I've even said before, you know, I'm going to play this song. I don't really care for it. Like, let me know what you think. And some people have been like, that was freaking awesome. So yeah, I'll put the work out. Not every riff you write has to be a killer riff. And it's really good to get to this point where you can write a riff and be like, okay, that wasn't what I was trying to do. Delete, move forward. I think that's huge. And it can be a challenging concept to move toward as a musician. Just to move toward that idea that the thing I'm going to create doesn't have to be good. Because a lot of times, I think as creative types, we put ourselves on the chopping block. And we create this as part of our identity. And that's why we put ourselves on the chopping block, is if I don't do this right, it's about me, the individual. This makes me a bad artist, a bad guitarist, right? And like, you know, for me, Randy Haynes, being a guitarist is my identity. That is who I am. So if I do bad at guitar, I'm doing bad. I'm not doing this well, right? I did that poorly, so I did a bad job. You can't allow yourself into that area. So I'm glad I wrote a crap riff. Let's see if I can do something better. So now, this is great, because you get yourself into a position like this, and I had this idea, and I just kind of heard, you know, after I listened to this, I was like, I should get some 16th notes going here. This is kind of what I had popped into my head. And that's still kind of what I'm hearing, is I want some 16th notes here. So maybe I can do something with some 16th notes, but I got to make sure that I don't end up doing a repeat of what I just did. And so let's come up with a new idea. right? So I might say here, okay, an E is the 5 of B. Well, I don't really want to do that. Let's go to an A. So we'll do movement by a fourth. I wanted those to be 16ths. So let's make them 16ths. And then they will be, because I'm crazy like that. And then let's just punctuate again. So something like this just might hit me a little bit better. Oh, and having this in here is not what I want. And also, so now here, okay. I've heard, this is great. I just made a mistake in here. I put something in not the way I intended to. And this is worth talking about. So, the statement has been made many times particularly about recording music, is don't fix all of your mistakes. And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. Because, with the recording technology that we have now, it is so easy for us to fix every minute little detail. And, and some musicians, some engineers, producers will go in to a recording and they will line up every little drum hit and every time you pick the guitar, and they'll go in and they'll fix everything, and it can be detrimental to the music. It's great that we have these tools because there are so many things that we're like, ooh, I didn't mean to do it quite like that. Or like maybe we had a singer, in for a session and they're no longer available, unfortunately. So, we got to fix what they did. So it's great that we have these tools, but sometimes we rely way too much on them. And so people say, don't go in and fix all of your mistakes. Leave your mistakes there. And so I think we can bring that even prior to the production realm into the composition. So I had intended to put this in as a power chord, but I didn't. And so I actually made two mistakes here because sorry, I was thinking some wrong numbers somewhere else. Basically, I put in a third. So in this case, we have an A major dyad on this chord. And this could be a great place to not fix this mistake. Instead of going to the power chord, just leave it. And that'll be great. Leave the A major there. And now that I've chosen to leave this in place, and if you happen to be watching on LiveSpace, I know LiveSpace has had some lagging issues. I think this might be lagging a little more than normal. So if anyone does decide to ask a question or put a chat up, it may be a moment before I actually see it. So don't beat yourself up. That's just, it's still in beta testing. So there's no reason to be overly concerned with any of that. And we should be good there. So just for awareness purposes. But now, so we've got this major chord here, and I'm kind of thinking, let's just do some dyads here. And there's this rhythm that right now also, it's notable that I'm not even paying attention to what chord I'm actually putting in. I'm just putting this chord in and I'm moving it around, and we're just going to see where it ends up. And I not uncommonly do that with my compositions. It's just like, I'm not even worried about it. I can look at it now and be like, okay, so this is a 1, 2, 5, 4, 3 on the chords I used. Let's throw that into the bass. And I think I'm going to go slightly contrapuntal on the bass. I'm going to do that in a moment. Let's just see if the concept works. And in this case, I'll be moving down by a 3 back to the 1. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to give this a little bit of context here. I like the concept. I don't like the chords. The movement feels just a little too happy for me right now. And so I'm just going to try some slightly different chords. Let's see what that does. Give a little context here again. Okay, so the only chord I'm not digging now is this C sharp minor. For some reason, that's just giving me a very majory kind of a vibe off of this, which is weird because it's a minor. Let's do this and just see if that works. That I like better. And so now this is kind of an interesting thing here. That so what's happening here is this is a B minor dyad. So it's a B note and a D note. This is a D major dyad. It's a D and an F sharp. But so we have the D note is in both chords, so that repeats. And if we look at a B, a D, and an F sharp all together, it's a B minor triad. So even though I'm doing a major dyad here, a dyad is a 2-note chord, triad is a 3-note chord. So even though I'm doing a D major dyad here, it's kind of absorbing into a B minor triad. So I'm actually getting a more minor feel in this case by doing the major dyad instead of the minor dyad that was. So basically I'm going 1, 3 would be the chord progression if we want to think of it. But I'm kind of hearing this and thinking about this as just 1. I'm breaking the chord up into 2 parts, but it's really just 1 chord the way I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to put this on the 3. I'm going to put this on the 6. I'm going to put this on the 7. I'm going to put this on the 5. And what do we got here? This is a So in this case, we're on a G major dyad, and so the 3 of that is the 1 of the scale. So this is going to be a fairly smooth transition back to the beginning of this riff. And I'm wondering if I'm that on a D note, and I think. Instead, I think I want to move this up. So what are we on? An E note, and that is the 5. I think I want to put that on the 2. Let's try that, because now I just kind of want this to move up. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm looking for a bit of contrary motion. So these are moving down. The upper line is moving down, the lower line is moving up, so they're moving contrary to one another. And then technically, we're continuing. So basically all through this is contrary motion. The bass is moving up, the upper line is moving down. And I feel like maybe just putting one more note in here might work well. No, I was wrong. That note sucked, and it needs to be punched in the face, which is what I'm going to do now. All right, note, face punch. You're gone, and save. Sucker. All right, so now let's go back to the page view on this. So now we're going to take this new information here, right back to the beginning of the A section. We're going to repeat it. Boom. Save. So that's the A section. And like I talked about earlier, this area down here just kind of shows where things have and have not been filled in. So we can see here on this song that the structure is fairly simple, and you probably can't read these little teeny pink things here, but it says intro section. So it's intro A, break B, break 2, intro. And it looks like the intro has an asterisk on it. So that somewhere in there will be slightly different. I don't remember what change I made. A lot of times it's just like the last couple measures or something. Something slightly different in this. So now I'm going to take this A section that we just completed. Boom. Right here. Highlight that. And I'm going to paste that into the next A section. Boom. Done. So now on this particular song, we've just got this B section to write. And I'm just kind of looking at the time here because I do want to go out and mow the lawn tonight still, because it has been growing like crazy because it's that time of year. And the blister on the back of my foot is finally healing up. I haven't run in, it's been about a week and a half. It's driving me crazy. I've been doing other exercises. But I went out, it was about a week and a half ago. Oh, we got Hussein Tate. I'm not sure if I said your name right. Oh, looking at the wrong camera, sorry. Hussein Tate coming in on Kick. Your donations don't work. I want to donate. You are Andrew Tate's son. Okay, I know of Andrew Tate. I don't know a lot about Andrew Tate. I know he's been in the news lately. But very cool. Thanks for coming in. Let me just make a quick check here and see what's going on. It's entirely possible that I did not. I just recently set up my page on Kick, and it's entirely possible that I put in a wrong address or something. So let me just jump over here and see what's going on. And nonetheless, thank you for coming in. Greatly appreciated. Always have a great time when people are just watching in any way at all. Interesting. So, where did you click for the donate? Because I've got a thing that says tips, and you know what it might be. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. I think I see what happened. So the web address. So if you click right on the panel that says tips, that should take you to my tipping page. And I just tested that. But I do see what happened here. I copied the code from Twitch, and they use a different markup system. So it didn't actually go in as a link in the written part, in the descriptor. So if you click on the tips, the actual panel, the little picture that says tips on a little kind of metal brushed thing there that says tips on it, that should take you to my tipping page, hopefully. And I'm going to, you know how I can do this right here. I'm also just going to pop this into the chat, and I don't know if, okay, it looks like from the chat the links do work. So yeah, and again, thank you very much for coming in, for tipping. And anyone out there. I don't know if on Kick. I know I've had a couple people come in today and chat a little bit. If you have followed me, thank you very much. It looks like I do have some new followers on Kick, and I have not seen the notifications for the followers, so I'll have to look into that as well, because I'm not seeing like a pop-up when people follow me on there. So yeah. You know what, Hussein Tate, no problem. If you ever do wish to donate, that's totally okay. Right now, you don't have the right method. Totally understandable. But feel free to come back anytime, and you never need to apologize for not sending me a tip. This, I like to say that my streams are always free and they're worth every penny. And also, if you're new here, which it sounds like you may be, this is kind of not my normal thing. Today we're just working on composition, which I love doing. I can sit and just geek out on music theory for hours, which is why I'm a music teacher, because I totally love this stuff. But normally I do an actual performance. I have 66 albums that I have released. They are instrumental heavy metal, hard rock heavy metal type stuff. And so I've got like some stage lights back here behind me, and so those get going. I can't really show them, unfortunately. They're not plugged in, they're not turned on right now at all. But I do kind of have this as a performance space with the guitars back there, and so I'll put in one of my albums and do just improvisational guitar solos, and it's pretty fun. I fill the room up with my smoke machine, and get the light show going, and it's fun. They're very fun shows. I have a rather small community of followers, but they're really pretty great, and I've had a lot of really good chat sessions on these, and it's all just a lot of fun. So yeah, and I stream almost daily. I didn't stream yesterday. Just kind of had some other things going on, and then got into teaching, and the time just didn't work out. But I do stream on most days. I'm not sure if I will stream to tomorrow, because it's my busiest teaching day. And Hussein Tate says, it's neat, but I got to go. Do I have YouTube? I do have a YouTube channel, and let me just pop the link for that into chat for you as well. And all of my albums are available on my YouTube, and so there you can stream all of them from there. Oh, and I'm bringing up the wrong channel now. I actually brought up my YouTube. I need to go to kick.com and put in a chat. So boom. So there's a link to my YouTube, and yeah, feel free to check it out. And I actually I'm streaming to YouTube right now as well. I'm actually streaming to 14 different websites. And so I'm on Twitch, YouTube, and DLive, and LiveSpace, and Trovo, and Nono, and Vaughn, and Nemo, and Kick, and a whole bunch. Facebook. I'm just streaming all over the place, because I'll stream to anybody, man. I don't even care. and it's just it's good times. So. Yeah, and thank you also, Hussein Tate, for coming in, and I hope we see you again. It would be great, and yeah, if you got to go, it's totally understandable. I'm actually, like I said, I'm gonna think about shutting down here. I'm gonna go out and mow the lawn in a little bit, because it is that time of year, and nothing but good times. So yeah, let's just do a little more here with the streaming, or the composing. Or just play guitar a little bit, or whatever. Actually, this is probably a pretty good place to go ahead and end it. I feel like if I start this B section, I'm going to keep going until I'm done with it, and then I will have to wait until tomorrow to mow the lawn, and I've already probably waited a little too long. I use the old grandpa style mower. No motor on it or anything, so if I let my lawn go too long, it does get quite difficult. And definitely with the big blister I had on my foot from running. Well, the funny thing is, I never got the blister on my foot from running. I run like 6 miles a day or more usually. Every once in a while I'll go shorter, 4 or 5 miles. But one day I was just like, I'm just like totally relaxed, right? I'm like, I'm just gonna go for a walk today. I'm just gonna go walk 6 miles. So I'm out walking, and I get about to where I'm gonna turn around. So I'm at about 3 miles away from the house, and I start feeling this. I'm like, I feel like there's rock in my shoe, right? A little rock got in there on the gravel road. And so I pull my shoe off. I'm like, oh no, there's no rock. I'm getting a blister. And right there, I would have called Sarah and said, hey, come pick me up, because I don't want to get a big old blister on my foot. But she was out of town. So I'm like, my only choice is walk 3 miles home. Yeah, that's all I got. I could have taken the shoe off, but I was on a gravel road. That would have been worse. So I just walked home, and I got a big old blister. It was like over an inch in diameter on the back of my heel. I've had some like that before, but it was definitely a very, very big blister, and it's finally healing up. I think I'm gonna, maybe tomorrow I'll try go out and run like just a couple miles, mile or two, and see how it feels. If I feel like, if I go a quarter mile and feel like I'm done, I will be done, because I'd rather get that healed up so I can get back into the series. I love running. It's just, oh man, I get out there and just get after it. It's good, man. In general, I just like exercising. It's fun. So anyway, I think, this was fun. And so wherever you came in from, for my new viewers, my new followers, thank you very much. If I didn't see you when you followed, apologies. I don't like missing those things, but I don't, some of these websites, these platforms I stream out to, I know I don't get all the notifications. But thanks to my chatters, thanks to my new viewers, new followers, thanks to everyone who's, my regulars, everyone out there. And hope maybe you learned a little about music theory off of this one. I certainly would not call this beginner level instruction, but fun stuff nonetheless. I had a great time with it. And I like I said, maybe tomorrow I'll be streaming. I'm unsure on that, because it is my busiest teaching day, and I think I might have a couple other things going on, but I might try to stop in and just blast off one album, and maybe we'll have time to do it. We'll just have to see what happens, but Monday should be back in, I would say almost for sure, and we'll be rocking, and until then, see you on the